You're good.
All right. Good evening and welcome to episode 45 of Pillar Talk. We're here sitting with Justin Carnes, aka Krimson, with a K.
With a K.
With a K. What's up, man? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm from Toledo originally, born and raised here. Obviously, I was a wrestling fan. And then currently I spent 10 years wrestling as Conrad Kennedy III, and I'd done a little bit with that, but basically I was just jobbing for WWE and stuff like that. And then I was a huge Batman fan, and I saw The Dark Knight with Heath Ledger, and Joker was always my jam as a kid. Like he was like the Roddy Piper, the Hulk Hogan, in my view, you know. So started doing a kind of a Joker-esque character named Krimson on Sports Time Ohio on PWO Wrestling, which turned into Prime Wrestling, and just kind of went from there. And then started taking off a little bit and got to do some traveling, got to work in like Japan and England. And then in like England, I got to know, like, me and Rhino and Corey Graves were like a faction over in England.
Oh, really? For
a minute. Yeah. Just for like 3 shows. Yeah. It was like this promotion called 1PW, and they were like the Ring of Honor of the UK, but they had gone through like so many owners. Like, we were part of the last ditch effort. It was basically, you could equate it to like WCW 2000. It was just like they had a few guys, but it just
it was all right.
Yeah. I mean, I had a blast there. They treated me great. But through that encounter, I also got to be friends with Kevin Nash, which changed a lot for me.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. So like they had wrestling.
I saw he was wearing your shirt.
Yeah. No, he's been a great friend to me. He actually, he booked me and Rhino. They hadn't had wrestling in Aruba in 25 years. And he was part of this thing called the Bad Boys of Wrestling Federation. Okay. And I remember he like, Rhino called me one day and he's like, "Did Nash get a hold of you about doing this thing in Aruba?" And I'm like, "No." I'm like, "What's the date?" And he told me. I was like, I was like, "Damn it, I'm booked in Newfoundland that week." So I messaged Nash and I'm like, "Hey man," I was like, "Rhino just told me about this Aruba thing." I was like, "Thing is, I'm booked in Newfoundland." And he's like, "Pay more than they will." So like, I like started messaging the guy from Newfoundland. I'm like, "Hey man, like, first time in 25 years. And then they were like, "Yeah, go." Actually, I sent Brian Castle and Ben Boone and they went instead of me to Newfoundland.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I got those guys booked. Castle's like one of my best friends. Yeah. So he actually lives with me, Brian Castle.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, dude. I love his wrestling.
We've been attacked. Yeah, I was actually me and Rhino kind of helped him come up a lot with his gimmick and everything. Yeah.
Dude, that gimmick is I love that one.
He tried to be serious. He tried to be serious for so long. He really did.
Right.
He was called like the New Age Patriot, and when he first started, because me, him, and Rhino were a car for probably like 3 or 4 years at least in some fashion. Then there could be Boone with us, there could be, but it was always me, Rhino, and Castle.
Right.
So we travel on the road, and I'm like, "You're not a serious person. You're a ridiculous human being.
Yeah.
And you're funny." I was like, so one of my buddies who's now on Impact Wrestling, Joe Doring, used to, as a goof, he had these shirts made up that said "Joe Doring, world's most huggable wrestler." And I'm like, "Dude," I'm like, "you should use this gimmick called the world's most huggable wrestler." And like, then he got on PWO, and then he started, people started loving him and doing the high and the wave and the bandana and all that. But
he says hi over there. Hi or something. Yep.
Oh, there we go.
High five.
High five.
High five. Yeah.
I saw a dude, and this is no joke, I saw a dude get out of a wheelchair to high five him once at a Prime Wrestling.
Oh my God. I mean,
he got to the back. I was like, "So, I mean, like, are you gonna like cure the blind now?"
Right. Yeah.
But but getting back to Nash, no, it was so funny though. So we got to Aruba, and like Nash had me do like Krimson promos. So I sent him over, and they were doing like a TV deal and or like a commercial for the shows. So I messaged Nash. I was like, "Hey man," I was like, "How did the promos go over?" And he goes, "You're so money, you're working me." Because he was like their biggest guy. So like Nash had this thing where like the whole show was like a 3-day thing, right? Like the first night was like basically it was Roddy Piper and Jerry Lawler hosting face-offs between the wrestlers that were going to face each other on night 2 of the King of Aruba tournament, and then it was going to culminate at night 3. And like I was wrestling X-Pac, and so like we had a one-on-one, and
Hell
yeah. But the problem was that we were sponsored by Balashi Beer, which is like on Aruba's like brewery, and we had just coolers of the stuff, and we're not working. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like the beer's flowing, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm like, and all I kept thinking, I wasn't even in gimmick. I just had like Kev's like, just put on a pair of dark sunglasses and, you know, just wear black, which is all I wear anyway. And he's like, just walk out to the ring. I'm like sitting there going, Jesus, I hope I can stay on the ramp. Like I'm just trying to get out there and like be menacing, but it worked out great. And then like they had me, I got rolled up by X-Pac, but I left him laying. And then that night it was Nash versus Scott Steiner for like the main, and they had me run in and, you know, hit Kev with the belt. And then the next day I was on Piper's Pit. Roddy Piper turned heel saying he was glad what I did.
Oh,
and
really?
Piper was my childhood hero.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it was like so bizarre. Actually, because of this encounter, I'd stayed close with Piper till the day he died. Like we exchanged numbers and
Oh, that's sweet.
yeah, yeah. So it was like he opened a lot of doors with me, and him and Big Kevin Piper were not like, they were cordial, but they had some stuff going back to like WCW. So there was at one point where Kev like goozles Piper, and I'm supposed to nail Nash in the back with a chair and get on the mic because Nash was also going to wrestle a hardcore match with me. And he just looked at me and goes, you tell me what to do. He's like, I don't do these. Like, this is your deal.
Yeah.
So Kev let me call the whole thing. And it was funny because there's one picture where Piper's just laying the boots to Kev. And we get to the back and Kev looks at me and goes, dude. He's like, those shots.
I'm fucking
So,
killing him.
he goes, you want to talk about a fucking receipt.
Yeah.
But no, it was cool. And then like Nash didn't want to give me his finish. Because I called the finish where I was like, I'll 2 chairs together. And then I'm like, I'll have you in the corner. Like I'm going to do like a drive a knee into the back of your head through the chairs. I'll do the cutthroat. I'm like, sweep my legs. I'll take the big bump through the chairs. I'll sell up. I was like, give me the jackknife through the 2 chairs. And he just goes, dude. He's like, no. He's like, choke slam. And I'm like, they are going to want to see the jackknife.
Oh, everybody wants to get jackknifed through a couple.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wanted to because I'd worked with Nash before, but I hadn't taken the jackknife at this point.
Right.
So time for the spot, whatever. And I'm a big, right now I'm probably about 235. And at the time I was probably around, I would say probably around maybe a little bit lighter. I don't know, but around the same size. I tried to stay around like 220, but I got in a nasty accident a couple of years ago. But
We might have to talk about that because that one did too.
oh yeah, no, it might. We can talk about it. It was brutal. But so Nash goes to give me the power bomb. I haven't taken many power bombs, so I kind of went too early, and Nash just hits me in the back, and he's like, relax. And then it was like up, down, through the chairs, right? So now these Aruban fans are chanting one more time.
Oh.
And so Nash, I see him start doing the deal.
big sexy.
And yeah, like taking down, he grabs me by the hair and he's like, you got another one in your buddy? I'm like, dude, for what you're paying me, go ahead.
Do it twice. I
Yeah,
don't care.
I don't care. It was cool. Plus, I felt bad because I botched the first one. So. But yeah, no, that was awesome. But yeah, I've got to work with a lot. I mean, like my first match was against Brutus Beefcake and Greg Valentine ever. My second match was against Road Warrior Hawk.
Really?
Yeah. So,
Oh my God.
not that I was good. I just I was trained in a really not reputable school in Toledo starting off. And out of all the guys they had, I was just the only one who looked like I could bump and I could sell a little bit.
What age did you get into it? Like
I got into it at actual wrestling training when I was 23. I promised my folks I'd graduate college first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that works.
Yeah. I mean, what's funny is now I was talking because yesterday we had like Alex Shelley is Motor City Machine Guns. I came up with those guys. We all trained at Scott Demore's Can-Am dojo together. Under
Told
Scott.
you I knew them.
Yeah, he did. We were listening to a video and his name was brought up. He goes, "What? Oh, we know him, don't we? We know that name."
Right,
Yeah,
right.
we
I
do.
thought I knew him personally for some reason. I was like, oh no, dude, I heard of him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, like Shelley and Saban are so good. And like at Skull and Bones Pro Wrestling and Fitness, the other head trainer is the first guy I ever trained, Trey Miguel, formerly of the Impacts, the Rascals, one of the hottest free agents like on the scene right now. And like Alex Shelley now trains at Skull and Bones on Fridays privately, but it's not open to the public. But it's like Alex Shelley and trains with Trey, and then they bring in some of our other guys like Sam Beal's been working a lot with them. And then, Alex Shelley's taking a liking to him too. But last night we had Rich Swan, the Impact World Champion, and the Motor City Machine Guns, Shelley and Sabin, training for the match against the Good Brothers and Kenny Omega up at the school last
fucking
night.
Sweet, bro.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, it was good seeing those guys. So
you even got we seen that you wrestled Hacksaw Jim Duggan, dude.
You name some guy from the 80s, chances are I've probably wrestled him or hit
Really?
him. Yeah, I mean, like the guys that are moving, like you name it. I mean, Demolition, Honky Tonk Man, Hacksaw.
Dude, my grandpa would fucking bow to you.
You should have told your grandpa we were doing the show today, bro.
Yeah, he don't follow Facebook.
Even internationally, I've wrestled Mil Mascaras twice, Mexican legend, La Parca. I had a feud with Blue Panther. I actually beat for I didn't beat him for the title, but I pinned him for the title when I was champion. He wasn't champion before, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, like I've gone on the road with Hacksaw. Like he used to do a lot of tours in Newfoundland too. So yeah, I know Hack real well. He's a great dude, man.
He's one of my favorites.
Dude, he was all right. Do you guys remember the Highlanders from WWE?
I think I do.
Yeah, they were in for a little bit. Robbie and Rory McAllister. They wore the kilts. They were kind of like the new version of the Bushwhackers almost.
Yep.
Great guys. And like Robbie was booked for D'Amore, and we had Hacksaw on the show, and it was me and we weren't tag team partners yet, but my tag team partner, John Bolin, who's a former WWE developmental, wrestles with me as Krimson, as War Child with the Dead Wrestling Society.
Okay. That's sweet.
Yeah. But then like Robbie was like, hey, like to me and Bolin, he's like, what are you guys doing after? Because we were in like Toronto. And we were like, we're probably heading, we were staying at Scott's, who lives in Windsor. It's like 4 hours. He's like, I live in Woodstock. Hack's staying there. He's like, my wife's out of town. He's like, dude, he goes, I got booze, I got food, I got everything you need. So me and Bolin were like, yeah, we'll go. And it's like a nice summer night. So we're all outside, having beers, and, Hacksaw likes his, devil's lettuce.
Hell yeah. That makes me more of a fan.
But, so like Robbie plays on the softball team, right? And he's like, hey, we always go out afterwards. Some of the guys wanted to come by and meet you. Is that all right? And Hacksaw's like, yeah, man, that's fine. You always got the one guy in the group, right? They're all like, so like, this is like 12:30 at night. And like these guys show up from the softball team. Most of them are cool, but you got the one drunk jackass who's trying to, So I'm looking, I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of John Bolin, but he's the scariest human being I've ever met in my life. I mean, he's just a great guy, but thank God he's on my side. Like if you're in the trenches, you want him with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like, I just see Bolin staring at this dude who's talking shit to Hacksaw. Like, and I'm just like, how in the fuck am I gonna pull Bolin off this dude? Because Bolin's seeing red, and I could tell. And like Hacksaw is like kind of like trying to be nice, and then
shrug it off.
He's like, yeah, he's like, okay, boys. He's like, well, it was nice meeting everybody. He goes, we got another show. We gotta be on the road early. He's like, but and this is like 12:30 in the morning, 1 o'clock. If there's an ounce of blood pumping through the heart of Hacksaw Jim Duggan, you can bet your sweet ass that he's gonna say, oh, or something to that effect. All these dudes who are in their like 30s and 40s turn into like 8-year-olds and just, and I'm like, what in the fuck just happened there? But I mean, yeah, I've been on the road with Hack.
He knows how to work them crowds, man.
Dude, he's hilarious. And he does it even in like, dude, he even starts UFC chants in Canada. But then he'll like also pull out like he was doing it in Newfoundland or USA, but then he'd like pull out like for his Hulk up afterwards, he'd pull out the Newfoundland flag and then Newfoundland. He's no dummy. He's making money,
So. I always liked him to come out with that 4x4.
2x4?
2x4, yeah. And I was just like, dude, it's a cool guy. Hey,
he still sells those. He sells them at shows. I know he's got like mini 2x4s, so they're not really 2x4s, but they're just pieces of wood. But he'll autograph them and sell them. I think he still does it online.
That's a good ass fucking.
Right? Yeah.
Go to
I mean,
Lowe's, get one of those for $8.
well,
dude.
especially now because, like, you know, a lot of these guys, you know, like, I mean, they do income they have income by going to these shows and doing autograph signings and stuff like that and selling their merch and that. Well, you know, can't do that right now. So what the hell? Why wouldn't you ship, you know, the autograph 2x4s around? You know what I mean?
This is I hit Stone Cold over the face with this one.
Right.
Dude, that's so when did you start Skull and Bones?
We just started, we've been open a little over a year. September 2019.
Oh, you guys got like a full crew in there. Like,
yeah.
Everybody training and shit. We fucking interviewed like most of them.
Yeah. No, we got great guys. Sam Beal, like I said, he's doing really well. Brian Castle forgot to mention this guy, so I'm gonna give him a shout right now. The Kenny Urban.
Yep, we have him scheduled too.
Yeah. Oh, dude, he's a great dude, man. He's one of the funnier. He's gotten so much better by training with us, but his promos are, I mean, they always make me laugh. He's one of the funniest dudes I've ever met.
That's cool though. We got like, you're a legend though, because you wrestled all the legends. You've been through every circuit that you
In
possibly.
some people's eyes.
Yeah. I always kind of, it was funny because I was talking to like a buddy of mine who I used to work with. He does like documentaries in New York, and I was like, dude, I'm like, he's a huge wrestling fan too, and he'll like, you know, occasionally like, man, I saw you worked with this guy, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, let's do a documentary just called The Never Was. Because I was never signed. You know what I mean? I was like, but I've wrestled like everybody and I know like a bunch of people, but I was like,
wait, but you showed up on WWE before.
Oh, yeah. I did matches. I mean, I worked for WWE.
But you weren't signed when
No. But yeah, it was like back then, like nowadays, if you want to get like be an extra or whatever, you go through this thing called NXT Recruit. And you know, I don't know how they go about picking guys because, quite frankly, I've never done it. Mm-hmm. Back when I was an extra, like I think around 2005 to around 2010, it was like Dreamer was with the company, so it would be either a text from Dreamer or a call from Scott D'Amore saying, "Hey, Dreamer needs you in Detroit, Cleveland, and Grand Rapids.
Okay,
for Raw, SmackDown, and Survivor Series or whatever."
So when it's okay,
yeah. So I would do anything from like I would be making their guys look good, to you know, being one of the Undertaker's druids, to whatever they need, security guard, whatever.
Oh, really?
Need. Yeah.
So you met the Undertaker?
Yeah, actually, my first
his favorite
dude. He couldn't pick me out of a lineup, but this is kind of a funny story. So my first deal was me and actually a wrestler named Gary Dawson, awesome Gary Dawson from and he was coming with me to train at the Can-Am dojo at the time. And Scott got us booked for Survivor Series as extras. So I'm like, he's like, yeah, you need black pants, black shirt, you know, all that. That's the standard for when you're an extra. Now I had that, but I had it with me. I was dressed kind of like this. Like, so everybody else is in, I didn't know. So everybody else is in like suits and that black suits. And here I come walking in and like one of the WWE guys stopped me and like the officials and we were like, "I'm sorry, who are you?" I was like, "Oh, I'm an extra." I was like, "Tommy Dreamer booked me." And he goes, "Oh, so Tommy didn't try to tell you about the dress code?" I was like, "No, I got my black like stuff in this bag." And they're like, no, we'll take it up with Tommy. And I'm like, oh, shit. I'm like, oh, I just shit the bed, right? I just walked in the door. So luckily, like Gary Dawson's brother, who wrestled as Elvis Elliott, was good friends, like knew Edge pretty well. Okay. And I knew Edge a little bit from Joe Legend and Rhino. So I was like telling him, I was like, dude, I feel so stupid. I was like, I walked in like this, but I have my black gear. And Edge goes, "You brought stuff to roll around in, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Just go get in your roll around gear and just get to the ring. Nobody will know." So I'm like, all right, cool. We ended up being in that ring for a couple hours. I mean, like I worked with everybody I could in that ring for
like you were training with them. Like,
yeah. I mean,
they were like warming up.
Yeah, like me and Gary were in there just doing our chain and that, but then like you could tell guys were watching, and then like Paul Burchill got in the roll around with us, and then like actually Kid Cash came up to us because he was with the company at the point, pulled us aside and said, like, "Look," he's like, everything you guys are doing looks great. He's like, "But you know, a lot of these guys here who are on the show probably don't know a lot of that because it was like advanced European chain wrestling type stuff."
Right.
He's like, "So you don't want to look like big shots." He's like, "You know, like you know it all." He's like, "Just keep it basic." So I was like, "Fuck, I've shit the bed again." Like this is twice now. So now we're done. Whatever. They actually didn't need us that night. whether or not they use you or not, you still get paid.
Okay.
Yeah, which is cool. So
Sweet.
I like got up in my black gear and all that, and Michael Hayes was our agent, and I said, "Excuse me," I was like, "Dude, show's starting." I'm like, "Do they need us for anything?" He goes, "Nobody's got with you about doing anything, any special spots?" And I was like, "No." He goes, "Yeah, you're fine." So I was like, "Awesome." So now I get back into my stuff, and I'm just walking backstage. This is where the Undertaker comes in. I'm walking, and he's coming the other direction, and I'm like, "Okay, there's the Undertaker." And I just kind of do one of those like nod things, like, "How are you?" And I keep walking. I just feel this hand grab me on the back, and
I thought you were getting chokeslammed. Tombstone at least.
I just this hand. I kind of turn this way, and he like leans down. And goes, "Sure, you should be back here, brother." Like I'm a fan who just got back here because I'm not dressed properly, and I'm like, "Tommy Dreamer booked me." I was like, "I am so sorry. I'll remember the dress code next time." And then he goes, "Oh, you're good, brother." And I'm like I ran to the office. I'm like, "Can I get a guest pass or something?" Like I feel like an idiot right now.
Yeah.
For full visual, what did he look like?
He was in gimmick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he had his match that night.
Yeah.
I was just walking by and he just stopped me, and I was like, "Oh my god."
Was he as big as I think he is?
Yeah, he's a big boy. Dude, he's a big boy. And then and what's funny about Taker is like again, he couldn't pick me out of a lineup, but I did do, because that's what I was there for, right? So I mean, like when Sheamus was coming in, like I remember working in the ring with Sheamus because his original finisher was going to be like a boss man slam. So I was in there with Sheamus, and Taker was helping Sheamus, so I was in there with them, and right there.
Right, but at that point, you're just an
I'm a body.
guy. Yeah.
I'm a body. Yeah, I'm just a tackling dog.
Go throw that guy in the turnbuckle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh no,
I
dude,
mean, still that's cool.
oh, dude, my favorite one was
It's like every kid's dream.
Yeah.
Arn Anderson, for whatever reason, like really liked me. So like anything, like he would always pick, if I was there, he'd pick me. So there was this one time, like it was in Detroit, it was Randy Orton and Triple H. And the gimmick is that Triple H had to throw Randy into the cage hard enough that the cage was rigged and would go up. So Randy would hit the floor and win despite himself, if that makes sense. Right. Yep. So he hit the floor first. So the cage was rigged, but they didn't know how hard you had to hit the cage. Like nobody knew really. So I see Triple H talking to Arn Anderson about it. And I see Arn Anderson start looking over at me, and I'm like sitting there. I'm like, I don't know what's about that. I'm like I'm sitting there. I'm with like Nate Matson and Eddie Venom and the other guys who we used to always be extras. So like Arn Anderson's like, "Young man, come over here." So I jump the rail or whatever. I walk over there and I'm like, "Yes, sir." And like Triple H, like, "How are you?" I'm like, "Good." He's like, so then he goes back to talking to Arn. He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "So what we're gonna do here is they're gonna lower the cage." He's like, "I'm gonna get in there with this kid, and then I'm gonna see how hard it's gonna take to hit the cage." So now I'm like, "Oh shit!" It's like I'm about to get thrown through a cage by Triple H.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm like, "Okay." And then Arn Anderson looked at me and he goes, "Aren't you glad you showed me you could work?" And I'm like, "Yes, sir." Yeah. So like we get in the ring and Triple H is just like, "Just hit the cage as hard as you can." I'm like, "All right, cool." So like I hit it the first time and I didn't get enough yeah. So it kind of flew out, but nothing big. So I'm like, he's like, "You got another one?" I was like, "Yep, let's do it." So I'm like, all right. I'm here to impress. Cause like McMahon's watching, Randy Orton's watching, everybody's watching. So the second time I run and I I got my arms up in an X, like to cover my head, and I hit the cage and it doesn't budge. And I kind of just slide down the cage. And that was
the wrong side.
No, it was because Arn Anderson was leaning up against the cage talking to Tim White about something else. And like he like looks over and he's like, "Well, young man, are you all right?" And I'm like, I'm good. And Triple H is like, "You got another one in you?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." So like this time I like hit this thing I hit it as hard as I can. Cage flies open. You hear this huge smack, right? And Nate Matson told me this later. And it was just like, there was like a hush because everybody's like, "Ooh." Yeah. And then I jumped up like this. And I was like, "How was that?" And like everybody lost it. And like Triple H like looked at Vince. He goes, Vince just looked at me and goes, "Fuck yeah." And just walked away. And like Randy Orton came up to me. He goes, "I just want you to know I'm not going to take that like that." He goes, "I just want you to know I'm not going to hit the cage that hard. Just so you know."
That dude clearly has a brain injury now. So you never talked to Vince McMahon?
No, I met I met him once. But it was the weirdest encounter ever.
I would feel like Vince McMahon would be a weirding.
Dude, he's just really intimidating. I mean, like, even like, I mean,
because he's ripped, dude. Still,
well, not even that, but I mean, it's just like, it's like, hey, here's the wrestling czar. You know what I mean?
yeah, the god.
So it's like, yeah, and you know, I don't get like really like I'm fans of guys and stuff like that, but I'm not one to get like starstruck.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I can usually shoot the shit with anybody
right.
in wrestling, and like, but I'm like walking by McMahon, and I was like, I gotta say something, right? And there's nobody else there. It's after a show. I'm heading to my car. He's going the opposite direction, and I just kind of lock eyes with him. It was like, and then there's that bullshit thing where back in the old days they used to have this really weird handshake where it was like super light, like if
like that tank,
like this,
one?
yeah. So now I'm sitting there, and this is all going through my head as in like a split second as my hand's going to meet his. And I'm like, do I shake his hand hard? Do I do this stupid thing?
Do I taint him?
He's been around forever. His family's been around forever. So I'm just like, screw it. So I just kind of went in with a handshake. I was like, how you doing, sir? Justin Carnes. He's like, Vince McMahon. And then like 2 steps, and he's like, young man, come back here. And I'm like, oh,
This is it. This is my chance.
so now I'm like, what is with WE shows? I keep shit in the bed.
Yeah.
I turn around. I'm like, yes, sir. And he's like, shake my hand again. So this time came in with the grip, and he just looked at me and goes, I'm Vince McMahon. And then just pat me on the shoulder and walked off.
He didn't appreciate his handshake that he gave you, is what that was.
No, it was that I didn't come in hard enough.
Okay, because
Yeah.
I myself, when I get that, when my hand doesn't connect, I need to redo that.
I mean, maybe I didn't ask him to be like, hey man, was that handshake cool?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I mean, but that's how I took it. Like, oh, I didn't shake his hand hard enough.
Well, I mean, you got to touch some of the best wrestlers of all time.
Yeah.
You got touched by the Undertaker about shit your pants, dude. You should have been like, dude, tombstone me for one
on the
time.
concrete.
Yeah.
It seemed needless. To me at the point.
Dude,
I'm not that big of a fan.
didn't they ban the tombstone because it broke somebody's neck? Or
I think pile drivers in general are pretty much banned nowadays. I mean, as far as WWE, I mean,
unless it's the Undertaker, of course.
Yeah,
The legend. Yeah.
I mean, I won't take him.
But if you notice, dude, Undertaker, he really does it good.
Oh yeah,
He's got.
Well, he's big enough.
Yeah, and when he hits, that dude don't. I mean, because if you did that, you
right. No, listen. I mean, I getting back to Nash. I won't take power bombs from people. I mean, for Nash, I would. But if you just say, "Hey, what about power bomb here?" I'd be like, "Yeah, no. Think of something else."
Yeah, that's
Looks cool, but
I won't take pile. I won't. I mean, like I almost like when I was younger, I never gave a damn about getting hurt.
is Scott Steiner in real life a dickhead?
No, he was always real cordial to me. I have a fun story with working. I'm gonna take this off a little bit more. I actually have a fun story working with him. So it was in this promoter named Dave Martin used to run these really fun shows called Primetime Wrestling out of the Diamondback Saloon in Michigan. And the one show, it was like me and this dude named Brad Martin versus Scott Steiner and PD Williams as little PD Pump. And he was doing
Oh yeah.
yeah. And I've known PD like since before he got it with Impact. Like he was there when I first started. So I injured my neck early on to where I thought I broke it. So I never take it. Like somebody says, hey, what about an overhead suplex, what Steiner does? I'll tell him no, because I don't like, if I'm going overhead, I've got to be guided.
Yeah.
I don't want to be just thrown in the air. Like you've got to guide me. Does that make sense? Like a suplex, my head's protected. Right, you're not just gonna throw me in the air like.
Oh yeah, okay, I get that 100%.
Support mine.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I'm like, look at PD. I'm like, what are the chances? I had to do a promo with Steiner in the beginning of that. I'm just, what are the chances that I don't have to take an overhead from Steiner? What if I tell him like my neck's bad and he just looks at me and goes, he's just gonna throw you anyway. He's like, he's strong enough to do it. So I'm like, oh man, because I hate taking them. I had a friend of mine, Colin Delaney. When he was at WWE, I was supposed to be wrestling that Kozlov dude, and he did them, and I just I sucked it. I hated him taking them, and it's just not natural to me. Anyway, so fast forward. So now we're getting ready to go out there in like probably about 20 minutes, and Steiner's like, "Hey, does anybody have any ideas?" So I'm like, I got one. So I'm trying to think of anything to take up time, so maybe I'll forget about these overheads, right? So I cut a promo on him in the beginning, and then he comes out, and then he starts to walk away, and we're in Michigan. So I said something. This is why I was Conrad Kennedy III. I was like, just like a Wolverine to walk away from a fight. And of course,
Yeah.
So I was like, when we get in there, I was like, at the time, I'm like, this when I was CK3, I was like 220 pounds, maybe. And I'm like, I'll challenge you to a test of strength. All right. And so I'm telling Scott Steiner this. I was like, we'll lock up for a test of strength. I was like, obviously, I'm going to start losing. When I start going down, I'll give my tag team partner, the Iggy, he'll crawl through my legs, punch you in the stomach. You'll go down to both knees. Now I'll be winning. Right. I was like, now when you start fighting back up, get the crowd behind you. I'll give my tag team partner, the Iggy, have PD go through your legs. So like they'll meet in the middle. Right. And like they'll both be crawling through our legs. They'll meet in the middle, and then have PD pop Brad Martin, who was my tag team partner, in the head, which sends the back of his head into my crotch. Big ha-ha spot. And he's like, and Steiner's like, yeah. Then after that, he's like, I'll hit you with the Steiner line. He's like, I'll drop the elbow, do the pin, do the push-ups. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. That's great. And he's like, yeah, then the hot comeback. It was just like clothesline, like easy.
Yeah.
And like PD's just look afterwards, PD goes, because the thing I called was a midget. It was like an old, like 60s midget spot, a little person spot, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But I mean, it was like a comedy spot. And like PD and even Demore goes, I can't believe you got Scott Steiner to do a midget spot.
That's funny.
But
yeah.
I avoided any sort of like I was put into the Steiner recliner, which is incredibly easy to take.
Yeah.
And like PD put the sharpshooter on Brad, and that we both dapped out at the same time. And I'm like, whew, dodged a bullet there.
Yeah, what a good one, dude. That's crazy. Have you do you since you have so much experience, do you like calling it in the ring?
Do I like calling it in the ring?
Yeah.
No, I mean, like usually, calling in the ring's kind of a lost art. It's not done too much. What I do is I'll have bullet points. Like I'll be like, hey man, this is what I'll do.
Like how comedians do it. Like
yeah. You have to feel off the goal. Like I've been like when I was on Prime Wrestling, which reached a lot of places. Like we had a great roster too. We had Johnny Gargano was on there, Matt Justice from GCW, Gregory Iron, Vic Joseph was the commentator. I mean, we had a lot of guys who've gone on to do some really cool stuff. Like Gargano told me that he was watching Prime when he was in Dragon Gate in Japan. They were getting it over there on satellite. So I mean, like,
oh really?
Yeah, a lot of people saw it. So I was wrestling this dude named Austin Mannix, who's really talented now, but this is when he was first starting, and he was like their face champion, and I'm coming in as the heel, and it was like this little show. There's only like I'd say less than 100 people there, but I'm on TV, even though it's on Sports Time Ohio, but they recognize me from that and the promos and all that.
Right.
And I'm the heel coming in here. Well, we start wrestling, and the crowd starts chanting, "Crimson's going to kill you."
Oh shit.
And he's the baby face. So while we're working, I said, look, I had him in a chair. And the original thing was I used to give a guy, like I had him on the outside sitting in a steel chair. I'd chop him like 3 times and take off running. I'd hit him with a rolling European uppercut, which would send me into the floor, just look nasty, and the guy would go backwards.
Right.
So I start setting it up. I said, move. I was like, I'll eat the chair. Just start taking heat on me. Like, we got to change this now. Crowd's not buying it. Like we gotta flip this on the fly. Like so now I'm going to be working face. You're going to be working heel. And now, now we'll call it because we have to change everything up.
Okay. Cause if the crowd reacts differently, then you got to go on the fly.
Yeah. I mean,
but that's like the only time you have to do it then.
Yeah. I mean, for WWE, and that's different because one of my matches was, it was me and Eddie Venom, Jay Adams, who's now he retired from wrestling, but he does like stunt work in that now. And versus Jesse and Festus, which one of them was Luke Gallup, big LG now. But that's when they were first starting off in WWE. So like
I remember them. Right?
Yeah, we were like one of their first matches. So we had a 6-minute match, and it took us an hour to call. I mean, I'm like, I'm used to, I've been on the indies for a while at this point, and this isn't that much to remember, but they had to like write it down, not because they had to, because Arn Anderson was our agent. Arn asked them to.
Okay.
And like, so we're like in catering, and they have to write all this down and like return it back to Arn, and they had to go kind of like that because of TV constraints, time constraints, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, so that had to be more scripted.
Yeah. So it's more, so that stuff's more like, it's my experience right now. It's more scripted now. You've been with the company for a while, and you've got a little more pole, I'm sure, you have more freedom.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for a couple guys just coming in, I remember Aaron Anderson telling me, he's like, all they gave me, I had one clothesline. That was it. I was allowed one clothesline. Aaron Anderson said, "You've got one move." He's like, "Make it count."
Oh,
and
wow.
And if you watch it, like I hit the clothesline on Ray Gordy, Jesse, and I leveled him. I mean, I hit him as hard as I mean, it was just like, hey, Hanson ain't got shit on me. Like,
Yeah.
but I made it count.
Yeah, that's crazy. So was that like, did you feel like that was your time to shine? You had to shine even harder in the W. I mean, yeah, you're on national television, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I'd done some of those. I mean, and some other friends of I mean, it's cool, like, to experience, like, it's crazy, but it's also like that thing of where it's like, speaking of Hacksaw, my last match against Hacksaw was in sold out Joe Louis Arena.
No shit.
Before Raw. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That was a funny story too, because like I worked with Hacksaw a couple times on the indies. We're in Detroit, and like Mike Rotundo came up to me. He was an agent. He's like, have you ever worked with Hacksaw before? I said, yeah, a few times on the indies. And he's like, oh, okay. So I see him going talking to Hack, and Hack walks up to me. He's like, I know you. You're C something. I was like, CK. Yeah, CK3. And he's like, okay. He's like, yeah. He's like, well, we've got about 5 minutes. So you know my match. And that was it. Like, we didn't call anything. So now, as I'm about to go out there, they're about to like send me out to the ring. Hacksaw comes up to me and goes, they just changed it. We got 7. So we'll just stretch out there. So I'm like, hey, it's a sold out Joe Louis.
Right.
I guess I'm letting Hack in the driver's seat. So
they gave us 7.
It was easy though. I mean, it was a Hacksaw match. I mean, it was just, we just called it. And it's not like we're doing, Hacksaw. We're not doing tackle, drop down, hip toss, get it again.
Right. You gotta know the wrestler you're wrestling too.
Yeah.
So you go in there and you got to talk with him. So you choreograph it with him.
With Hacksaw, I mean, I'm like,
or you just,
if he's the vet, he's calling.
Okay.
Yeah. He's calling it.
And then, so how do you, these young talents that you have in your gym, how do you get them? Like, what's the training like there?
Well, so we're there like 4 days a week. So Sundays are our open ring days, which means like, if you want to try out a spot, you want to work on a move, if you want to work on promos or film promos, that's the time to do it. Like I'm there, Trey's there. Like, we're here to help.
Oh, everybody's okay.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't even take roll call. Like, this is your time to get extra work in. Okay. Then Mondays and Tuesdays are drilling days. That's when we're doing cardio. That's when we're doing spots. That's when we're doing our drills. So that's Monday and Tuesday. And then Wednesdays it depends on who's there, but it's kind of a amalgamation of everything. Like, if we got enough of our team captains there where we can have matches, we'll do it. But if we've got guys who aren't ready for matches, then we'll just do some spots or whatever. So it's kind of like an easy day, 2 really difficult days, and then another kind of easy day.
How is that running through to ring to ring, the side of the ring, whatever? What's that called? Running from belt buckle to belt buckle?
Oh, just running the ropes?
Running the ropes.
Yeah.
Yeah. How hard is that? Is that what you do for a lot of cardio?
Yeah, but I mean, you do other things involved with that. Like, I mean, like, one of our drills is like, we have them like, they'll begin with this and they'll end with this. Is like, 2 guys will get, I'll have them partner up. They'll lock up, right? One will take a headlock, then they'll shoot the guy in the headlock will shoot the other one off, and then they'll crisscross 10 times, and then they'll circle up again, lock up. Then the other guy takes the headlock, shoots him off, and then they'll crisscross 10 times, and then they'll meet in the middle and lock again.
Fuck.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just drills like that. Like, I mean, Trey's an architect, man. Like, he comes up with a lot of these sweet drills. And then we got great coaches over there. Like, me and Trey are the head coaches. And then we got Brian Castle, Ben Boone, our assistant coaches, and a gentleman who wrestles. He's out of Michigan. His name's Dickie Bronson, Rich, or Mr. Bronson, as he's known as a school. But he's like great at like joint manipulation moves and chain wrestling. And then, like I said, we got Alex Shelley is doing his private classes out of my school on Fridays. And, and then we got, like, actually, while I'm here, we got Rhino coming tomorrow from 4 to 6, Skull and Bones, $25. Rhino's been around. He's still relevant today.
Yeah.
For how
very
long
relevant.
For how long he's been wrestling.
He's in my city. he has that boatyard up in my city. I see him on my buddy lives right there. I'm over his
Big
house all the
Daddy's.
time.
Yep.
Yeah, I see him out there. He was out there fucking with some shit the other day. I'm like, dude, it's cold out here. This motherfucker out here busting ass.
And almost 90, you'll almost never see Rhino in pants. He almost always wears shorts.
Yeah, and it's weird. Yeah.
It's
I seen him in the DMV too, and I was like, I locked eyes with him. I didn't know what to say. I was like, "Oh fuck, dude! I just ruined it. I could have said hi to Rhino."
No, I mean, he looks intimidating as hell, but he's extremely well read, extremely intelligent.
Oh, I fucking loved him when he was on. When I was a kid, I loved him.
But it's funny because he also, he's big into politics. And when we would do this is one of the funny. Oh my god! So when we would do Newfoundland tours, it was like. We'd fly into St. John's, and Newfoundland's an island, but it's province of Canada, but not a lot comes there. So like when wrestling's in town, especially if you've got Rhino, WWE superstar, like dude, like these towns would empty out into the local, arena, gymnasium, whatever it was. You do like a loop on the island. So sometimes you're driving like 5-6 hours between shows. And our car in Newfoundland was, because me and Rhino usually came as a pair and we'd room together. And it would be me and him, a gentleman by the name of Cowboy Mike Hughes, who's awesome. He's from Prince Edward Island. And the promoter was a wrestler named Mr. Fantastic. And then that was our car, like in Newfoundland. Like the four of us would always travel together. Well, Mike would love to play devil's advocate on American politics versus Canadian politics. And he'd do it to get Rhino in these conversations, basically just to annoy me, because I was like, dude, I'm not like, this isn't my jam.
Swallowing you guys up in a wormhole for no reason.
So this one time we're driving, it was like a 4-hour drive, and it starts almost immediately about gun control. And like then it loops into something else. 4 hours to the building. We get to the building. It continues 2 hours before the show. Show is starting. They're still arguing. We're getting to our match, which is a tag team match, right? We were doing it every night. I finally lose my mind and go, who's taking the fucking gore? Am I taking the gore? Is Cowboy taking the gore? Just tell me who's taking the fucking, because we're next. Just tell me who's taking the fucking gore. And like Rhino, like locker room's kind of quiet. Rhino just calmly looks at me and goes, you don't have to get hot about it.
You've been arguing for fucking 7 hours. How long have you known Rhino?
I've known Rhino. I knew him because he'd be at Scott's occasionally, just coming up there to train. But I got friendly with him when, I really got to know him and really started traveling with him when Impact Wrestling was bringing me in as Crimson. Like that was the original plan. Yeah. So like Demore called me and he goes, it might be and Rhino was on his last 2 loops with him because his contract was ending. Okay. And but he still had great relationship with everybody in the company. And like they had emailed me about bringing me in as Crimson. And like Demore's like, it'd be a pretty good idea for you to get go on the road and meet some of the guys backstage and all that. Right. So I did. So I went on the road with Rhino, and that's kind of where we clicked and started traveling together.
Oh, how many years ago was that?
That was like 10 years ago.
Oh, so you guys been tight ever since?
Oh yeah.
He makes a lot of appearances to the Skull and Bones, or
occasionally. Like he's been up there a few times. We had a Joe Legend who lives in Germany who trained me originally, and him, Rhino, Edge, and Christian were a group in Detroit before they were signed called Thug Life. So they've known each other forever. So like Legend.
Oh, Detroit boys, Michigan boys.
Edge and Christian.
They're Canadian. They're Canadian. Yeah.
Canadian.
Okay, yeah.
They used to wrestle in Detroit for actually, I think it was Malcolm's granddad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. MM3's granddad, I think. But yeah, they were a group called Thug Life.
MM3's granddad.
Yeah, with handsome Johnny Bradford as their manager. So we had Legend in for a seminar, and then we had Rhino and Legend do a tag team seminar too.
Oh, that's cool.
So we had 2 seminars, last year. But we've had like other good guys in, like we had the Rascals in before Zach and Dez went to WWE. We've had Gregory Iron in to do a seminar. Billy Gunn, we had to do that on location because Rhino was bringing him for a show, but we had Billy Gunn in for a seminar, who I know from Aruba because he was me and Rhino would rib him endlessly. Billy Gunn, like to this day. Like,
do you think it got picked on in all locker rooms?
What's that?
Do you think he got picked on in all
Billy
locker
Gunn?
rooms?
Oh God, no.
Uh,
You see Billy, that's a man. Like you see Billy Gunn,
Yeah.
he's a big jack dude. And like for whatever reason, like Rhino just started, we were in the locker room, and then like me and Rhino just started screwing with him. And then like after Aruba, like I would like message Billy and be like, so when me and Rhino Billy, me and you and Rhino, when are we going camping? I would just keep bugging him about going camping. Like I'd send him pictures of like 3-man tents and be like, I got the tent today. And just like,
yeah.
and he would just be like, motherfucker, would you quit texting me? But he's always been a good sport. I mean, like Billy Gunn's a really good dude. He's he actually showed one of my promos at AEW, like to some of the higher ups there. And
That's American Elite.
All Elite Wrestling. Yeah.
All Elite.
Yeah,
Yeah,
on
that's
TNT.
Cody Rhodes shit.
Yeah.
He just hit me yesterday, like, Cody Rhodes is. I was like, yeah.
I
Dude. I
looked
saw,
at it.
a belt for him at Walmart just the other day.
Yeah.
Oh, really? They have Dean Ambrose on there under a different name and stuff.
Well, his original name before he got to WWE was John Moxley.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he wrestled on. Him and like Sammy Callahan were called the Switchblade Conspiracy as a tag team for CZW. So
I like what Cody Rhodes is doing. I see Goldust is in there with some different face paint, looking old as shit, bro.
yeah, no, man, you got to give Dustin Rhodes credit, man. I mean,
I give him credit,
yeah.
but dude,
Honestly, Goldust was one of my it was, I wouldn't say top 10 favorite, but he was in my top 50 favorite wrestlers.
the most
When he came
recognizable.
out, I rooted for him.
Yeah, he kind of reinvented himself with AEW though, because he's doing like the half paint thing.
Yeah.
But he's in the best shape. Like, I mean, I don't know him from Adam, but
yeah.
he's in like the best shape.
Is he?
I've seen him in wrestling. I mean, and he's.
I just seen he looked old. I was just thinking.
I mean,
come
he's
on.
getting. I mean, but if you watch him move, I mean, he is old for a wrestler. You know, he's in.
Right.
I mean, he's got to be in his 50s.
Got
It
it.
has to be. Dude,
Yeah.
I seen Goldust forever.
He's
Remember
moving
he
better than me. I'll tell you
Come
that.
out with the wig on in the bathtub sometimes and
Mhm.
shit. Like the fuck out.
Yeah, it was a different era. I mean, they were trying to push that vibe. You know,
That was sweet though.
That was, remember when I think it was him and Al Snow I can't remember if they were a tag team or something,
maybe.
but you had Goldust's weird shit, and then Al Snow's going head, and Goldust is like,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But that, yeah, I mean, that stuff probably wouldn't fly But,
nowadays, no.
I don't know. I mean, I look at the WWE nowadays, and I'm like, I stopped watching WWE for a while. Growing up, being a dumbass, growing up, like I don't need to watch wrestling, and I come back, and it's a lot. There's a lot more acting. I feel like on it now.
Yeah, I mean, well, right now, especially because they're throwing everything at the wall. I mean,
There's nobody in there.
You can't have people in there. So that's, I mean, some of the stuff I don't know. I'm a huge fan. I watch older wrestling and tell all my students, like I get it. Everybody wants to work this fast paced style, but if you watch older wrestling, like one of I also know Bret Hart pretty well, and one of my favorite matches was the Brainbusters versus the Hart Foundation, and like. I was watching it the other day, and I actually texted Brett, and I was like, how long I'm watching this? It's amazing. Like, if you guys got the network, look it up. It's amazing. It's like SummerSlam 90 or 91. It's the first match, and it's awesome. It's one of the best tag team matches I've ever seen. And he's like, yeah, we only worked that pay-per-view and like 2 other house shows. And I was like, what? I'm like, dude, that could have been a program. That was money.
Right. Holy shit.
But yeah.
What about your accident? What kind of accident did you get into?
Oh yeah, no, yeah. So I was wrestling for this group, which I guess is under the same flag as like Evolve and like all Gabe Sapolsky's groups. It was like their hardcore promotion called American Combat Wrestling. And
we heard about it. One of them.
Yeah, and then they brought me in, and they were doing like vignettes, and they had like me doing promos every week, and it was out of Florida, and I flew in for that, and it was like their WrestleMania, but it was like held at this like bike fest or whatever. So it was like not real. There was people there, but I didn't get the vibe we were wrestling fans. You know what I mean? It was more like we were just there, as like an attraction. But whatever, I'm a team player, and they had me come in for this hardcore match. And it was like supposed to be a 3-way cage hardcore, falls count anywhere. It was just like all this horse shit. And which I was fine with. I was like, all right. And then like it was me, this dude named Sideshow, and this other dude who was their champion named Romeo Corvito. I had been there since noon and already wrestled once. Sideshow shows up there around 5, which is the show didn't start till 7, which is usually a good time, like 2 hours before the show.
Right.
So we're like kind of like seeing what we got, and we're like, I'm like asking him, like, where's this other dude? And he's like, I don't know, he lives in town. So I'm like, oh, okay. So like show starts, dude isn't there. Like, so now we're at intermission, and I just said, fuck it. So I just called the match. And I said, look, this is what we're going to do. Boom, we'll just fill him in when he gets here. So, because we had weapons to play with and stuff like that.
Right.
So now we get this dude shows up like 40 minutes before the match. 10 of those 40 minutes before we're supposed to go out there, he's showing off his ring gear, entrance gear he made, and it lit up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. To him, it's WrestleMania. To me, it's Saturday. I don't give a shit.
Right.
So I'm like, hey, man, I was like, look, you know, this is what we got for the finish. I was like, I'm going to be selling up in the corner, and we're going to have a table propped in the corner. Sideshow's going to charge me. I'm going to side pass him. He's going to take himself out into the table. He's done. I was like, you cut me off. I'll do something cheap. I was like, I'll put you on the top rope. I'll get the table. I'll set it out. So it's like he's sitting on the top rope, on the top turnbuckle, and I've got a table laid out.
Yeah.
They had like 5,000 thumbtacks. I was like, I'll pour the thumbtacks on the table. I'll go for a superplex. You shoot underneath, power bomb me through the table of thumbtacks. I'll sell up, kick me in the gut, hit me with the Michinoku into the thumbtacks. 1, 2, 3. Pretty good finish.
Yeah, I like it.
For a hardcore match where you got thumbtacks, a table. And he's like, yeah, we can do that. He's like, but I really want to hit a moonsault. And this guy's like 260 pounds. I want to hit a moonsault on you from the top of a cage on a table on the outside. And I'm like, after I just took a header into a table of thumbtacks and another one. I mean, what are you going to do? Shoot me? Set me on fire next?
Yeah,
I'm bulletproof now. You've made me bulletproof. And I'm like, this is the dumbest shit ever. But I'm like, all right. I talked to the promoter, the guy who booked me for it, and he's a buddy of mine. I'm like, can this dude do it? He's like, yeah, he's really athletic. I'm like, all right. So now we do all the shit. And so he's supposed to set me up on a table on the outside, climb to the top of the cage, and do a moonsault onto me through the table and pin me right there. 1, 2, 3. It's a long ways up, right?
Yeah.
Especially if I'm on the outside. I'm not even
15-foot cage.
At least. Yeah. Well, especially if I'm on a table on the outside. It's a big drop. So I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking, all right, this is going to go one of two ways. Either he's going to hit it, which will suck, but oh well. I mean, as long as you tighten up and you should be okay with the table breaking your fall. And then I was like, or he's just going to overshoot it completely and miss the table, which will be funny.
Which will be fucked up.
Which I kind of was hoping for because I found him to be a bit of a dick. And completely unprofessional. So now here comes the spot. He sets up the table, puts me on the table. Well, the table was rigged to break. At the time, I'm 227. He puts me on the table, it breaks immediately. I mean, just breaks immediately. These weren't great tables anyway. But now, so people start kind of chuckling. Now he's pissed. So he's like, fuck it. I'm doing a swanton, which is like the Jeff Hardy move. There's nothing breaking my fall. I'm on concrete now. And my legs propped up on this broken corner table. Fuck kayfabe. I'm like going, no, dive. Jimmy Snuka dive. That's it. Dive. Chris, my buddy who booked me for the show, who's like running the show, he gets wind of what's going on. He comes out and says, fuck kayfabe. Dive. Just a Jimmy Snuka dive. He gets to the top and I see him get to the top of the cage. I'm like, all right, he's just going to do like a splash, which is still going to suck because that's a ways up and I'm on concrete.
Yeah, he's a big man.
All of a sudden I'm like, oh no, he's not. He just does. It wasn't even a swanton. It was a front flip. All of his 260 pounds comes right on my leg, which is propped up, shoots my femur through my hip and pelvis, turns my leg all the way around. So I'm looking at my heel. I'm like looking at my heel. And I'm like, throw up the X sign. I'm like, go tell Chris to call 911. My leg's broke.
Is that that's what you do when you throw up the X?
Yeah.
Is bad.
That's
bad.
Yeah, this is for real. So now the ref's gone. They're gone. They're scurrying, trying to call 911. This idiot who knocked himself loopy comes over, grabs the leg that's inside out, tries to roll me up for a pin. I pop him in his ear, and I'm like, motherfucker, because at the time I thought I broke my femur. So you just broke my leg. He didn't know where he was, to be honest. I mean, in his defense, but And then so now like it's the ambulance get there. It takes a while for the ambulance because there's so many people at this bike fest, right? So they get me on this in the ambulance, get me to the emergency room. Now I'm in the emergency room hallway. I'm not even in a room. On this board, and I'm looking at my leg, which is just mangled, like, and I'm in so much pain, and I'm like, why am I not in a room? And they're like, all the ER rooms are taken up right now. I'm like, what's going on? Well, because these bikers at this rally were, ODing. So now all these idiots are sitting there ODing in these things that I've got an actual medical emergency, and I can't get in. It was just a night. It was a nightmare of an accident. Sideshow did come into my, he came and visit me in the hospital a couple days after they did the initial surgery to like reconstruct my hip and pelvis. And the guy who injured me never did. Even though I lived in town. He Facebook messaged me basically telling me that he
got to be tougher than that.
he messaged me saying he wasn't going into business for himself and he didn't hear me and and all this stuff and I just said, you're full of shit. I was like, there was no way that
a couple of people were saying it.
Yeah,
some of the fans were saying it.
Yeah, I was like, I said you're full of shit because one, I was like, don't tell me you weren't going into business for yourself. There's no way either of us, one of us was not walking out of there. So it was the most unprofessional thing I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
Two, I bitched him out for being late to a show where he lives in town.
Yeah.
And then I just basically told him like, look, I was like, I know Adam Pearce at WWE, Corey Graves. I know a lot of people at WWE. I was like, every one of them is going to know your name and not to use you because he was doing stuff with NXT.
Okay.
And he was getting squashed, but still, I was like, have fun for the rest of whatever career you have left, getting $40 a night if you're lucky, being an NXT wannabe. And but after that, like Gabe Sapolsky heard what happened and they blackballed him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
you wrestled for the Juggalos too, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh man, I was on tour with the Juggalos.
Did you really?
Yeah, for the Midwest tour. Yeah,
that's sweet.
It was a time, man.
Was it good parties?
That's what everybody says. It was a time.
We go to the gathering and stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean it was cool. It was like the most surreal thing on the face of the earth because the Midwest tour, like our van consisted of me, Kevin Gill, my tag team partner, who's from from All Japan Pro Wrestling, named Akira Raijin. He wrestled as Kiyoshi and TNA for a bit. He was like one of the Great Muda's proteges.
Okay.
And then also, besides me, Kevin, and Akira, I have Tracy Smothers, God rest his soul, who's one of my favorite human beings on the face of the earth, Raven, and Sabu. That's our car. You want to talk about an interesting fucking week on the
car
road?
Ride, yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was a little nightmarish, but it was fun. It was a good time. I mean, but there really wasn't like, it wasn't as crazy as you'd think.
Did you even get to meet
Raven,
Shaggy and Two Dope?
Oh yeah.
Shaggy and
Dude, Shaggy and Two Dope are
Shaggy and Violent J.
Yeah, no, Joe and Joey are awesome. They're like the coolest dudes on the face.
Oh, really? So they actually came up and talked to you too?
Oh yeah. No, it was like they were like. What sucked was
they wrestle too. That's what
I've worked with Jay.
They're
Violent
cool.
Jay. Yeah,
they're pretty cool people. We went to actual music video shoot, and our buddies in the music video quite often. But they came out, they hung out with all of us for a little bit, and it was pretty cool.
Two of our guys just wrestled in Violent Jay's bathroom.
I saw that house party.
Kenny Irvin versus Gio Bronco.
No fucking way.
Yep, and then Rhino also.
Rhino versus Nate Bach. Yeah.
Yep. Nate Bach gave my kid a necklace off of his.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Nate's a good kid. Yeah. That's like Rhino's like, I don't want to use the term young boy, but that's like who he travels with.
Prodigy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like young boy sounds really creepy, but it's an old Japanese thing where it's like, hey, this is my young boy.
It's his son's favorite wrestler. First wrestling show he's ever been to. First time he's ever watched.
Oh, really? Yeah. No, I like Kenny was texting me from this show, and I'm like, what are they even doing? Because JCW did a show from Violent J's house, but they did it in the backyard. I'm like, it's freezing out. Yeah. He's like, dude, we're wrestling in his house. There's not even a ring. I go, what? I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you're wrestling? He's like, yeah. And then he messaged me because originally he was supposed to be in
When
this
was this?
This was
a couple weeks ago.
like Christmas time, New Year time.
Yeah.
Not that long.
Not
ago.
long ago.
Huh.
Yeah.
And like
within a month.
Yeah, Kenny like messaged me. He goes, dude, I'm wrestling Gio in because they needed somebody for the bathroom match because they had something got changed around. So Kenny grabbed Gio, who's one of our like newer guys. He's like, dude, he's like, so he like pitched it, and they were like, yeah. I mean, listen, as far as a pro wrestling match goes in a bathroom, Kenny Urban versus Gio Bronco is at least in the top 3. At least the top 3.
Right. That dude, that's
I believe George Hackenschmidt and I believe Farmer Burns went 30 minutes in a bathroom, and I'm making this.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, what?
Yeah,
Farmer Burns.
Luthez and Vern Gagne. I think they went. I think they went to a Broadway, 60-minute Broadway, in a stall.
Did where did they all over? They were just fucking his house up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Each match was in a different room.
Yeah. Like Teddy Hart wrestled fucking Too Tough Tony.
He's
in the
gonna
living
go.
room.
He's gonna go look it up now.
Yeah.
Oh,
dude,
sure.
you gotta watch it. It's there. Like, I told Kenny, I was like, as soon as he said that, I was like, somebody better be getting a swirly.
Yeah,
Said
no doubt.
Did somebody get swirly?
You'll have to watch and find
out. Motherfucker, That's cool, man. That's cool that they have that.
Yeah.
That's I like. So, do you like because you run the Skull and Bones? Do you have like ins with some of the managers? You've been in the industry.
I mean, we obviously we have ins with Impact. You know, I mean, but as far as like, and we've got a friend.
Just some promotions. Like
Even
the
for sure.
lesser promotions and shit you have.
Yeah, we're gonna be like once wrestling starts like getting on its feet again. We're actually like our brand new guys are basically going to be not even our brand, but like a lot of our team we're affiliated with Live Pro Wrestling out of Fremont, Ohio. Tim Horner Jr. books it. It's great. It's in this little theater. It's perfect for like your first match too, because it's like it's a Fremont crowds are
not too big.
They're not. It can fit. Oh, he does nice shows, but it fits maybe 200 people. So it's not super big, not super intimidating.
Right.
The crowds are easy. Like they're not smart marks, so it's not like you have to do a 350 off the top through a flaming table to get a pop.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're big into story and like telling a story in a match. Yeah. So we're going to be like kind of a feeder group for them once they start rolling on. And then like, Trey's been wrestling all over. I mean, so Trey's got connections with like, a lot of the bigger promotions. Like Trey's like the Warrior heavyweight champion, which is out of Chicago, which is a huge promotion.
Oh, really?
So yeah. And a couple of our guys like Sam Beal and Jason Page have been on there. And, but yeah, I mean, we got ins with other promotions for sure.
Sam Beal's transformation over the last year.
Here's what's funny is that he's like basically one of our completely homegrown guys because I started training Sam at a different school called NOW, and I trained him in wrestle Travis, who's another one of our team captains, but he wrestles as Ace Miles. He used to wrestle as Ace Miles. He's going to be changing that up, but I got a hold of them when they were green as grass, never started. And then they, once I left there and then they started doing some shows and stuff. And once I started opening the school, they were like the two guys I wanted like to come like, hey guys, like, cause I watch one of their matches. I'm like, this, and this is good. You need to work on this, and this. I was like, so like, you guys should start coming to school. Yeah. They hemmed and hawed forever. And then once both of them joined the school, and both of them have improved by leaps and bounds. I mean, Sam, physical and transformation and this gimmick, I don't even know what the fuck his gimmick is.
I love it.
It's just Sam Beal. Oh, I told him it's beautiful. I
can see it going somewhere.
I'm going to take one small piece of credit for Sam, except for the training. One small piece of credit for Sam Beal's gimmick, not his wrestling training, his gimmick. So he's in the school and he's like, CK, he's like, check out these, because he was wearing these orange glasses, right? And he found a pair of blue ones that were identical. He was on the road.
He told me about this.
Yeah. And then he was like, dude, he's like, I got two pair. And I'm like, dude, you have your blue ones. I was like, start the promo, then take them off, and then have your orange ones. And those are going to be your angry glasses.
Yeah.
And then the first time he did it, I died. I was like, this is awesome.
Yep. He told us all about that. He gave you credit and everything.
Dude, yeah. He's such a good kid. And like, and now, like, and Trey, with Trey's help, his in ring is just coming leaps and bounds.
Oh, he does really good.
Well, when we went to the boatyard, he was one person that stood out to me
Sure.
Because of his the presence inside the ring, the moves he was doing.
Well, yeah,
the fluidity.
Yeah, he's
the
different.
cockiness, the funniness,
Yeah.
you know.
He's different too because his look's different. Like his favorite colors are orange, blue, and white.
Yeah.
Like most guys, it's black. Me too. I mean, at Crimson, we're black and red. I'm Crimson.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, he's just, I don't know what this gimmick is, but whatever it is, it's working, and I love it. And like even Alex Shelley, you know, one of the pioneers of X Division, and
right,
you know, I mean, his work speaks for itself. I could go on volumes, but even Alex Shelley is told me, he's like, this kid's got potential.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I definitely see him going somewhere. I see Malcolm Monroe the third going too. He's real. I like the way he's doing it. And
yeah. I see Malcolm. I know Mal. I mean, I've known MM3 for a while. Yeah, he's good. He's been around the business his whole life too, which
his dad, his grandpa, yeah.
But Sam is like, you know,
the natural. You
yeah,
know?
we're gonna get away from that though, the natural, because it's like I sent stuff for him to AEW to try and get him on a dark, and one of my friends, he's a huge IP attorney, but he represents about 90% of AEW. He represents Jericho.
Okay.
And I was talking to him about it, and he goes, well, it's not going to do him any favors if he's using the natural, because that's Dustin Rhodes isn't the natural.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I was like, and I felt bad because Sam had just gotten t-shirts done. I'm like, yeah, well, you can keep the natural in the indies, but we're going to have to think of something else. We want to get you to go anywhere else. So
yeah, because AEW, he would fit right on the AEW.
I think he would fit in anywhere.
That's what I was just gonna say.
I told him to keep doing what he's doing. I could see him on fucking WWE.
Well, he's got plenty of time too. He's a young guy.
Yep, he's got a lot of drive, dude. He's what, training for wrestling, doing shows, and going to school at the same time.
Yeah, him and Travis both. I mean, like it's funny nowadays too, because like when I got in, I was just talking about, me and Johnny Bravo were just talking about this yesterday. When I got in, I was 23, and people were like, "Oh, they're like, how old are you?" And I'm like 23, and they were like, "I was like, that was late. Like I was getting in late." I'm like, "Fuck, I'm 23. What do you mean I'm getting in late?" And it was like, because like, and I remember like Dreamer, like talking to Dreamer at a show one time and being like, you know, because he was like head of developmental at WWE, and I'm like, do I need to send you more tapes? And he goes, no, he goes, I know you're a good worker. He goes, I just need you at 225 and jacked. He's like, that's not Tommy Dreamer talking. That's the office talking. Because back then it was like the cutoff was like, I think it was like 30, 32. Like they wouldn't even look at you if you were under 6 foot and 225, and not like, that was like the standard 6 foot, 225, under 30. Nowadays they'll hire, I mean, now with the internet and the internet presence is like, AJ's my age. AJ Styles. I know he looks a lot better than I do, but he's my age. I mean,
told you.
Yeah.
Nowadays,
I know he's old. I've seen him through all of it. I followed his career.
But the thing is, if you have an internet presence and you can somehow, and they can make that translate into making money for the company, they'll sign you. They can be 102. They'll sign you.
Well,
maybe 102.
I just saw.
Flair's a different story, but I mean, like, I'm talking about like, even if you're like, if you've got something and you've got something on the internet, and you're not a Ric Flair, you're not a legend,
right?
You know what I mean? But you have something that they can sell and they think they can market and they can get a year or two out of you. Yeah, they'll probably, I mean, they might take the gamble on that.
I think I heard yesterday DDP said he didn't start wrestling until after he was 30.
He was 35.
See?
Yeah, he was 35 when he started. I got a couple of guys. My first student joined and he was in his 30s.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean,
he didn't do nothing previously, or?
No, he was from scratch. I got a few of those guys they've joined there in that are in their late 20s, early 30s. So it's a different ball game. Right? Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it's one of those things. Like, people always ask me, which I think I've lost students probably because of this. But like, if I've had students inquire, they'll be like, "Well, how long is training?" Like, I never.
Always.
Like, it's always. You're always training.
Yeah.
Like, you never stop. I again, like Alex Shelley, trains every week at our school. he's been all over. He's wrestled for New Japan, All Japan, 0-1, Ring of Honor, TNA. WWE's offered him, you know, I know they've offered him contracts in the past, which he's turned down. You know what I mean? And he trains every week. And it's like, you know, you never stop training.
Yeah.
Like you never stop training. Like the school Skull and Bones, like when I wanted to start the school, like I wanted a school that I envisioned.
You would like to go
yeah,
to?
because like when I was like when I was coming up through Detroit, you always heard about the Can-Am Dojo. Like that was the place to be, Border City, Can-Am Dojo. And like Alex Shelley was the one who got me in over there. And like I was expecting like the state-of-the-art facility. I keep hearing this camp. It was a shitty garage with a ring in it.
Right.
I mean, it was terrible. I mean, it was a shitty garage with a ring in it. No heat or a little bit of heat, no air conditioning. I mean,
Right.
you know, so like my school, you know, I bought a brand new ring. You know, I've got kettlebells, steel maces, clubs, battle ropes. We got 335 pounds of free weights there. You know, I got a TV with where we can hook up a phone to it and watch film, or we can tape. I have a camera where we tape matches. We hook it up to the TV, watch it like film and like football or anything else.
All right.
I make him listen to our shows.
Yeah, well, same deal. Yeah,
Gotta watch film.
You're only going to get better by doing that.
Yeah.
So I mean, like that's the thing. It's like we like other schools would be like, hey, you're here for 16 weeks and you're out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like you're gone. Well, here it's like now, like we're as long as I'm open. Like you're still training. Yeah. We're more like we're more on the ilk of like a motor. We're like a real life faction. We're like a motorcycle gang.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah, but I mean, like we all
talk
pay
to
our
most of
dues,
you.
and
Yeah.
you know, and we all train and try to get better.
It's just you guys like to wrestle instead of ride motorcycles.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's sweet.
So yeah, I mean, it's going good. Tomorrow, I'm really excited for. It's been a big week for us, man. I mean, we had, like I said, the Motor City Machine Guns and Impact Champion Rich Swan working out there yesterday for their Hard to Kill pay-per-view coming up next week, where they're wrestling the good.
Oh, they were practicing for that?
Yeah, they were getting ready for that. Yeah,
That's sweet.
they're wrestling the Good Brothers.
Yeah, that's sweet.
And Kenny Omega, AEW World Champion, on the pay-per-view. So that's really exciting. And then today I'm doing the Brain Jerk podcast, and tomorrow we got Rhino and Gregory Iron will also be doing a podcast with Trey Miguel tomorrow out of the school. So
Gregory Irons.
Yeah, he was they did a seminar with him.
yeah, Gregory
Recently.
Irons, he's got cerebral palsy.
Mhm.
Is that how you say it?
Yep.
Cerebral palsy.
Cerebral palsy, yeah. But he's like this really talented wrestler. Like him and Zach Allen were a tag team called the Handicap Heroes, and now he's part of this 440H with Ricky Shane Page and Eric Ryan, Atticus Koger, and there's another gentleman, but they're like huge in Game Changer Wrestling. They're like
That's sweet.
they're gaining steam, which I'm glad for all those guys. They're all really good guys.
How many championships have you won over your years?
I mean, as far as like ones that actually like meant, you know what I mean? Because there are some places they'll put a belt on it. It's like, okay. I mean, the ones that like I used to love wrestling for this promotion in Erie, Pennsylvania. It was called Pro Wrestling Rampage, and they had a great crew there, and I had so much fun there. And like, so when I was wrestling this guy who I can't believe he's not signed. His name's Big Time Bill Collier, and him and I had a great feud. And I won the belt and I dropped the belt to him. So that was fun. Like that meant like
Right.
Because it was a good time. Like, and the Prime Championship was cool just because
You don't get to hold any of those championships.
depends on the Prime, like PWO Prime. I try not to hold on to them, quite frankly, because I don't want the responsibility. You know what I mean? If this gets damaged, if somebody breaks into my, this is a true story. I had the Pro Wrestling Rampage belt in my car, and somebody broke into my car and they stole my gear. Like my gear and Castle's gear were both in my car, but they left the belt. And I was like, oh, thank God. Yeah, because I was like, if they stole this belt, now I owe these guys a new belt. Bad enough I got my gear stolen.
Right.
You know, so anytime I've won a belt, I'm like, and they said, oh no, you get to keep it. I'd be like, I'd rather not. Like,
Yeah, I thought what I thought is you got like a replica to take home with you. That's what I thought.
No.
Same thing with the UFC.
So like
champion.
the UFC gets to hold that. He gets to hold that belt. Is what you thought? Okay.
No, I mean,
I
like,
think you get. I thought you got the belt.
The new champion gets a new belt each
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
no, not Indy. No,
Is that what happens in the UFC?
Yeah, that's what
I have
happens.
no idea what happens in
Yeah,
UFC.
the new champion gets a new belt, and then nowadays they used to get another new belt, but now they get a little gem in the belt. They send it away to the jeweler. They put a gem.
Oh, a gem. Oh, okay.
In the belt. So Israel's got like 3 gems because he's defended 3 times.
Got you.
Oh
Got you.
shit!
The more gems, the more.
Nurmagomedov has what, like 8 times, 8 gems.
7 or 8, yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That sucks. You gotta give the belt back. I don't even want this fucking thing, dude.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, look, it's cool. Like if somebody thinks enough of you, put their belt on you, but it's, it's not something that, not something I just, me personally.
Do you have any replicas at your house?
I want to say, I think the only replica I ever got was before I got into wrestling, and that was the old NWA, like the old,
the sweet
NWA.
one, yeah.
Not the big gold, the one before that, the like Harley Race NWA replica.
Oh, okay.
Belt. Yeah, that's the only one I ever got.
Oh, okay.
I'm getting a belt made for the school, but that's just basically.
So what is that going to be, like a friendly competition? Like,
no, it's just for me.
We got belts made for a family cooking contest.
Oh, did you really?
Oh.
Yeah, no, I love Japanese belts, like, because some of them are real intricate with like this chain. So I got them, like, they're gonna be doing one. I got the same guy who does like Ring of Honor's belts. I would give him a plug right now. I can't remember his name. Really nice dude. But he does like Booker T's belts, and he's gonna do one for me, and it's gonna have like my logo, the Hole in the Heart Crimson logo on like one of the side plates, and then Trey's logo on the other side plate. So.
That's sweet.
What got you into wrestling in the first place?
Poor career choice.
Yeah.
No, I was like you guys, like everybody else. I was like, I started watching. I think the first wrestling match, I was at my neighbor's house. Me and my buddy, we live like our backyard's connected, and we're at his house and we're playing with our He-Mans and whatever. And his dad's just flipping through channels, and I remember he stopped on pro wrestling. I didn't know what the hell I was walking at. But I do remember it was Ricky Steamboat, not Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. It was Ricky Steamboat, white trunks, white boots, do a flying body press off the top rope. And I was like, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen. And then like after that, He-Man figures, Skeletor. These are wrestlers now.
Yeah.
Mom's Ottoman is now the ring in our imaginary ropes. You know what I mean? So it just, I never stopped watching. I mean, I never stopped watching. There was never a period in my life where I was like, I'm kind of over it. There were some periods of time where I didn't really like the early 90s. I wasn't as invested. I would still watch wrestling, but it was like I would Jones for like the older, the 80s. And
that's how Hogan versus Goldberg's.
Man, that's not.
Oh, that's 90s.
That's 90s. I'm talking about Hogan versus Piper. I'm talking about.
Oh yeah,
we're the 90s.
I'm the 80s. Man. Yeah, I'm an old chunk of coal.
And I kind of feel that way about when I watch it now. I was like, man, I really wish I could watch The Rock.
When I watch it now and like the New Day comes out, I'm like,
there's certain dudes that I do absolutely like, but.
Oh yeah, no, I'm a big fan of like Bray Wyatt. I think his character's great. I think what he's done is great with it. I'm not making any accusations, but I like it because it's kind of has like a similar feel to like Krimson. Like I think they would work well together in a match or against each other. So I really kind of dig that because I like that kind of stuff. That kind of character,
I always tell him if I was a wrestler, I'd be a similar character to you. Maybe not so dark, but I'd be a darker character. I'd wear face paint, all that. I'd come out the darker music.
Well, the thing with me was when I used to do Krimson all the time was that I was never out of character. Like even when, like, cause I would do these promos where I'd quote Nietzsche and I wanted Krimson to come off as like a super villain, like a super smart super villain. Like I was picturing like the Joker, like it's like that, like an evil mastermind, like
sadistic smart guy. Yeah.
Like an evil genius.
Those are the best get bad guys.
Yeah. So like when me and John Bullen were tag teaming as Dead Wrestling Society, we always joked and it was like it's like the Joker and Bane, or a tag team. He's my muscle.
Yeah.
I talk shit. He backs me up. I get the shit kicked out of me until I dive into thumbtacks. There we go.
Get my leg pulled in half by some jackass.
Yeah. That was because I used to think I was just bulletproof before that. I didn't care. But anyway, getting back to what the hell were we just talking about? Your character.
We were talking about how Krimson was. You guys were.
Staying characters. But
staying in character.
But other guys when they would sell merch, right? And they'd be like, heel or face.
Gotcha.
Hey, how you doing? Me. I kept my hood on I would keep my hood on the entire time, and I would never look at anybody. I would just sit there and I would just stare up at the ceiling. And then when somebody would come by and they'd be looking at my shirts, and then they would ask me they'd always be timid, be like, do you have a large, or do you have this design, or what sizes do you have? And I always had a piece of paper where I'd write with a Sharpie, like size, and they'd be like large. And then I'd hand them and I'd be like 20. And I would never talk in person. You know what I mean? So it was just
kind of cool.
Yeah. It was
that's
like
creepy as shit too.
Yeah. Because when you see me on these promos that I'm doing, I'm from a lair, you know what I mean? And I'm quoting Nietzsche, and I'm talking about you think sleeper hold, I think duct tape in a plastic bag, shit like that. Now you see me in person and I've got this hood on and I'm completely weird and I'm just staring like I'm listening intently to somebody who's not there, and all of a sudden this person breaks my concentration and I'm kind of staring at them, and it's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, dude.
So it kept the mystique going.
Mm-hmm.
No,
that's
honestly, that's what people love.
Yeah,
that's the whole reason the Undertaker was as popular as he was.
Yeah, even like outside.
He never, ever broke character. He just recently started letting you in a little.
Sure.
bit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just recently.
And Bolin used to drive him nuts. He'd be like, dude, he's like, if we were talking to these fans, we'd probably make so much more money on merch. And I'm like, nope. I mean, I would even take pictures with it, even when I was like a face, like as Krimson, because anywhere I've gone, I've usually somehow turned face, because we had me and Bolin, especially because we had a cool look as a tag team. So, and they always got to hate you before they can love you. Right. And we came in white hot.
That's the truth, kind of.
It is. They have to hate you. John Cena.
Even when Edge and Christian came out with Gangrel, they were the vampires.
I mean, there's exceptions to the rule, but I mean, look at I always use the 80s. Look at Roddy Piper.
Yep.
Yeah.
Roddy Piper was the most hated guy, and that was like that angle where Piper was.
And they fucking loved him
with Adrian Adonis and Bob Orton and Don Morocco turned on Piper. And that led up to Piper's retirement match at WrestleMania 3, which I was there. That was the first angle I was like really super invested in, because I always liked Piper, but I also liked Hogan's. I was like,
yeah.
I felt like I was betraying Hulkster, It was like one of those things.
Piper was one of the best bad guys.
Oh, dude, he was amazing. And then especially early Piper, he was great. And then when he turned face, but he didn't change anything he did. He was still a heel. He still worked like a heel. Just the match was structured different.
Right,
because people started to love him.
Yeah, and then and then now he's like the hottest baby face. Like he's up there with Hogan. He's on par.
Yeah,
they gotta hate you before they love you.
Mm-hmm.
They do that. A lot of people.
Heart Foundation.
And then when they love you and you turn into a heel,
and if you turn it, I mean it's cyclical. Yeah, but
that's the whole NWO era.
Dude. That's the ultimate heel is The Miz.
When Sting turned into the NWO, you're like, no. He put the red face makeup.
I was never a big fan of that.
Yeah,
the red and black Sting. I was like,
I hated that. I didn't like that Sting. I liked the white and black Sting.
Yeah. It was cool.
I saw a little interview on YouTube. We were talking about. Was it TNA?
Yeah, oh yeah.
How you were sending things to him, and
we had. I mean, this was before the current regime was there. Before, but this
interview, by the way, was from 2011.
Yeah. But it was the time I was telling you about where they had me sending stuff and that.
Yeah.
And it was I found out that they were using a different guy. They gave the different guy the name Krimson. And I called Dreamer, who was with Impact at the time, and I was like, did they really just call somebody else Krimson? And he's like, look, He goes, yeah. He goes, it sucks. And Dreamer's like giving me his pep talk. He goes, look, you have no idea. He goes, I came up with so many ideas for WWE creative when I was wrestling there. And they'd be like, that's a great idea, but not for you, for this guy. He's like, so he goes, look, Dreamer loved my Crimson promo. So he's like, nobody can do this like you can. He's like, just give him a different name. So then I started cutting promos as instead of Crimson like the Mask, I just used the name Villain. And I'd end the promos instead of Crimson like the Mask. Same look completely, but it was like V is for violence. So is the villain.
Okay.
Vengeance, whatever.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So I cut like just a promo on Sting, and I cut a promo on Hogan. I think I even did one on Biss and just sent him into D-Lo. And then like it was Corey Graves who messaged me, and I'm like, I'm at my at the bar I manage, and I'm like, he's like, dude, you're being raped right now. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I kept getting like, because it was when Sting and Hogan, he was doing like the Joker Sting era.
Yep.
And I started getting like tagged and stuff, and I'm like, they're like, this looks like people saying, dude, this kind of looks like what you're doing on PWO or reminiscent of it.
Right.
And then when he did full-fledged Joker Sting, like Corey Graves messaged me, he goes, dude, you're getting raped. Because he did this promo on Hogan, and it was like, and I don't know. I mean, I have no proof of it.
Right. Somebody could have had the same similar idea.
I did get it confirmed that it was kind of from a guy from TNA that was pretty kabuki-ish. They did kind of steal my shit. But the guy who's no longer with the company. But it was almost like they wrote down my promo or said, hey, watch this and just take what you can.
Right.
And like, because it was like the things he was saying.
This is what you need to do.
We've seen it. It looked just like your promo.
Yeah. It was like, it was just, I don't know. It was bizarre. But I mean, that's different times now. So,
because, he wears a grandma muumuu all the time. And, we kind of started that because he's got a whole thing where he plays Grandma Goik, and it's a character. You know? So he'll wear a muumuu, but shortly after we made that public, I seen some other dude on a comedy channel wearing a muumuu. It wasn't quite the same, but it was very similar to what we were doing.
I mean, that's the thing. You gotta be. I mean, like, look now with all the content and everything's filmed.
Yep,
everything's up for grabs.
Yep, everything. Yep.
So
if you can make it better, then you can do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that's. I mean, listen, it wasn't the first time it's happened in wrestling. It's certainly not going to be the last. Right. I know of a bunch of stories like that, not just with Impact either.
I've heard a few.
Yeah,
I've heard a few. So.
Yeah, it happens.
So, do you want to plug everything you got going on?
Yeah, and then we got one more question after that.
Yeah, no. Skull and Bones Pro Wrestling and Fitness on Facebook. I'm super bad with my magic phone, so Trey had an Instagram start first. I'm not sure if that's even still going, but we do have a Twitter coming out. Tomorrow from 4 to 6, Rhino will be holding a seminar. This is open to all professional wrestlers and wrestling students. This is not a meet and greet because I've been contacted by some non-wrestlers, just like Facebook friends who were like, hey, can I stop up? And I'm like, no, this is for wrestling students. So $25 from 4 to 6. Well worth it. I'm sure we got some good stuff planned for you. And then Hard to Kill is the Impact pay-per-view coming up next Sunday, featuring friend of the schools, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. In the main event with Rich Swann versus the Good Brothers and Kenny Omega. And follow Trey Miguel wherever he is because he's awesome.
Yep, he is. Okay, so you got one thing to say to the world. What would it be? The last thing you would say to the world?
Less talk, tighter pants.
Boom.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Less talk, tighter pants.
You pulled that one out of nowhere, dude. That was a good one.
That's my motto on everything, bro.
Less talk, tighter pants.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
I actually used to real quick where that comes from is like, you know how when like you're in school and they have like the teacher evaluations?
Yeah.
And they're like, what as a teacher, what could I do better? Or what that was my answer to everyone. Less talk, tighter pants.
Less talk, tighter pants.
Nowadays, I'd probably be thrown in the Hooskow or at least canceled or something.
You would. Yeah, we're getting canceled right now as you speak. So, no. All right, that's it for episode 45 of Pillar Talk, man. I hope you guys have a great night, and I'll see you guys then. Thanks for sitting down with us, man. It was
Hey,
really
no,
nice
thanks for having me.
meeting
It's been a pleasure.
you. We're signing out. See you later, guys.